Namaste and good evening, Ensite peoples. It is Monday again, and I dropped the ball. The last video I got out way too late into the right space. I had it on my own Facebook area, and it just wasn't supposed to go there. So a lot of you didn't get to see it before when it was supposed to. So I'm trying to make this ahead of time. So my goal, I'm going to hold myself to this, that I get it out on Wednesday, this video that I'm making on Monday. Yes, it makes sense, right? Have it out on YouTube, in the Ensite tube, and tagged in the Ensite Facebook group. I'm starting to get the feeling that there's a lot of you with some serious scheduling conflicts. I can't do it on Saturdays or Sundays, Friday evenings. Why? Because I'm at work, and I really apologize for that. I want to make it more accessible. Also, I'm not seeing a lot of people interacting even with the posts. I know that a lot of you are busy. For a lot of you, there's not much to say. But if I don't get any feedback, I don't have any way to be able to change things to work for you. I can't just put out content if no one is saying anything, because I feel like I'm putting content to the wind. Right now, it's like I'm the only one that posts anything. I hope you all feel very, 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 very comfortable posting on our community Facebook site, because that's why Ensite is a circle for awakening intuition. It's a group. It's all of us. And you know what? Some of you really like getting tarot stuff, but I know a crap ton of you are tarot readers. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir when I'm reading tarot. But if you'd like me to, what content would you want? Please post a post with you telling me what you want. Say, Lucy, I want this. This. Come on, this. Do this. What I want you to do here. This is something I want for the group. Make this. And I would hope that everybody is comfortable with PMing me. I mean, you friend me on Facebook. You have a Facebook membership to the Ensite website. I'm the administrator. Pick a time, PM me, say, hey, I really still want to go to the Monday meetings at 6 o'clock. That's when they are at. Or, hey, this is really kind of not working for me. Could you scoot it to like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? Something? Work with me, Lucy. Come on. And I want to. I need input from you. I know a lot of people were trying to shoot for weekends, because weekends are the normal people. Do I look normal to you? No. And even if I did, and some you beautiful souls out there probably would say, you look fine. I guess my little rant there was that what would work for me, and just talking out, I have my own YouTube channel for that. Ensite was supposed to be for everybody. Still is. We still have a website, actually. So, what's cooking? Cooking with magic. is kind of what I was originally going to put for the event name. The idea is that every culture has, or I should say, well, we can say every culture has food symbolism and herbology of their own. And that includes spiritual and religious groups. Now, I use religious groups, of course, for those of you that know me and how I frame religion. Religion is a group-shared spiritual belief system, not to be mistaken as the institutions and the dogma and the traditions. Those are all trailed in the religious community as a byproduct, not the actual religion itself. So in religious communities, the traditions often are connected with the ethnic origins of the belief system. The dogma is usually because of, that's more of a sociological issue, generations trying to enforce some sort of standards that originally could have been secular, actually. Some of them were created simply as a control mechanism. Some of them were people were uncomfortable with stuff and were somewhat xenophobic, so they made barriers and walls and they created dogma. Dogma also is kind of like the plaque on the arteries of religion. It can kill an entire religious community very quickly because of that dogma. And then, of course, institutions can be the leadership and positive nature, or it can be the enforcing imperial overlords. But as far as what food has to come into that is that there's a special place and association with herbs and food stock with different deities. Probably the one most commonly shared by goddesses throughout Europe, Asia, and Africa is grain, especially barley and wheat. In fact, some of the later literature, like that was baked into the discussions of Revelation, even in the Christian Bible, even talk about spare the olive oil and the wheat. That was later a discussion in the apocryphal, not apocryphal, but the apocalyptic situations where stuff was being despoiled by the four horsemen of the apocalypse, but there was an angel that said, save the olive oil and the wheat. Olive oil especially was something very important to Greece, so it's not surprising that it had an association with deity. Once you have an association with deity, you also have an association with a certain power and characteristic. So with the laurel branch being a symbol of peace, laurel, or the bay tree, is connected with Apollo. Now, albeit the myth and legend of it, kind of like, well, what piece is there in this? But just bear with. The idea is that when it came down to the victor of any conflict, usually Apollo would be the one to give sort of a blessing. Now, this seems a little different because people would usually think that Zeus would be the one to say yay or nay. No, Zeus simply said who had the power, who had the rightful power. So the idea is that the laurel branch is sort of like a little crown that says, I won, and that actually was used in the Olympics, the original, like, ancient Greek Olympics, from my understanding. Fact check me on that, please. But with bay leaves, there was a lot more than just peace. There was also, it was associated with the oracles at Delphi, which also could be another reason for the peace association, that it's a peace of mind. Oh. Anyway, there were often, that was part of the incense. Now, some people have speculated that it puts people into a trance. I myself am uncertain about this. This plays over into magic in, again, that it associates itself with a characteristic of power and energy. And in witchcraft, that's been somewhat secularized. The religious connotations of their connection with deity has pretty much been stripped away. Any kind of mythology. So, the original concepts of the bay leaf being connected with Apollo, oak being connected with Zeus, we could also go as far as dates connected with Re and Shamash, the sun deities. These got more distantly disconnected, but their sacredness and the concept of them were still there. We look at the example of, we think of the fruit that sits on the tree of immortality. Christians in Europe took a Roman delight in apples, but yet in Greece, the idea of what do the gods eat all the time, as far as a fruit of something, this was something more mystical. But the one thing that we know that was offered around the most was the pomegranate. In the Middle East, because of the discussion of the changing of the seasons and the vegetative world, the green world, and how it went through the cycles, was being represented by a male deity, Dumuzi. His plant that represented him, that actually in Sumerian means the plant of life, is the grapevine. So there's all these different ideas, and that sort of carrying over of this thought. So the peach is the fruit of immortality in China. Wild. I wouldn't have really thought of peach, but again, it has to deal with how the culture evolved and the things that embodied what they thought, and earlier connections that we just didn't, the lore to it just didn't pass on, except for this is the fruit of immortality. We have lots of different things that went into herbology, but really what I've found that makes the strongest case for herbal energetics is you taste it. And there's this sort of, you start to be like a kid again, and you can taste, and you get this collection of emotion and this you get this kind of images, characteristic. Yes. So, I mean, let's do an experiment. All right. Take just one of the herbs on your shelf. Sit there and just for a moment get centered and grounded. Open it up. Smell it. Now, some things you'll have to be careful, like with pepper. But, I mean, get it so that you can get the scent of it. And with that, just take it in. Now imagine that it is that scent is a clue to a bigger picture of something going on, a spiritual something. So with it, you can think, what does spicy tell me? What is this acrid thing burning at my nose? Well, it has fire, right? If it has an aromatic and it kind of has this woodsy or musky or something like that, is it earthy or is it airy? Try to get an element to it. What is the sea? Does it remind you of the sea? Does it remind you of things often, and that's another thing, is once you've cooked enough, you know that certain herbs go best with certain things. Well, with fish, lemon and, garlic doesn't go great with everything, but it does kind of go okay with fish. But I would say that salt, lemon, sometimes ginger. I mean, there's just some stuff that goes with fish and some stuff that just masks fish, to be honest. So if you wanted to taste your fish, usually you want stuff that's not, it can't be bland. It will just mingle with the fish or be overpowered by the fish. You want something that has a little zing, but you don't want it to all of a sudden kill off the fishy musk. That's part of the taste. I know some of you might not agree, but that's an example of how you can start to think about it, because then things that, your meats that come from different things, like herd animals, bird animals, fish, this is elements. You can get it back to the elements one way or another. So you can kind of get it down to the elements. Then you can kind of sit there, taste it. So put a little bit on your tongue. Get that taste going. Let it sit there, smell it. Really kind of meditate on, once you've got an element, then it's like, what is this element doing? Where is it at? What kinds of things? You just kind of play with it. And for those with synesthesia, this is going to be really easy. So you can almost see people or bring up memories of animals or something, or get colors even. Sounds, things that indicate that there is something, that this is a palette of consciousness, not just a food item. Now, a lot of our basic staples are just that, they're staples. It's like having earth or sky. There's a lot of it. So, is it a cloudy sky? Is it a patchy, dusty earth? I mean, with a lot of your grains, they have quite a bit of character if you compare them. By themselves, rice is very white rice is very uninteresting, but if you compare it to wild rice, brown rice, millet, I mean, now all of a sudden you're like, this does have a different flavor. Take into account how it is grown. Where does it grow? Rice loves water a lot, and sun. If it does not have these things, it will, but it has to kind of, for the most part, rice likes to start out in a marsh. Whereas, and so does corn. Actually, Nebraska was kind of built for it. We've just figured out how to regulate that cycle so we don't have to be going through mud nearly as much to harvest our corn. We make dry corn. With things like wheat, barley, rye, millet. No, these are like wide open pasture field type plants. They like good moisture. Oats love moisture. but they love sun and they love drained soil. So this all kind of tells us what kind of areas in the world they would go best. Another great example of where you can take the horticulture and kind of cross-reference an idea of what it would turn out better is look at lavender. So great examples. Well-drained soil, but yet likes to get enough moisture now and then, but doesn't like to sit without sun. It must have sun, absolutely must have sun. So that is something, again, very necessary, very distinct kind of environment. So it doesn't like to sit in water. It doesn't like to be in water. It likes lots of sun, but yet it likes moderate temperatures. So if you can kind of imagine, it's the flower, you smell the flower of endless days of sunshine, the moist, dewy mornings, and an infrequent snow during the winters, very, very mild type temperatures during the winter, very moderate types of temperatures during the summer. You know, two places in the world where lavender flourishes, certain places in France that get a crap ton of sun. And there's a place up in Washington that's actually on the Bay Area, but it's in a rain shadow. So most of the rain will skirt around it, but it'll still get moisture coming in that dews quite heavily for those crops. So it kind of gives you elements involved, the kind of whatnot. So alright, Lucy, how does that get us to what to use herbs? What is herbs for? And, well, there's other things. And, you know, this is an example of stuff I want to talk about, because in kitchen-based witchcraft, you're learning the essence of the stuff you're making for your food. We're not going to get into what meats and everything, but again, if you just think about elements involved, that's part of it, and there's a character to everything. But this is ultimately going into people's mouths. So it's not just, I mean, you can do medicines, you can do salves, yes, you can even do potions, but guess what? Potions, for the most part, were either based around medicines, common medicines, tonics people took, or were a specially prepared beverage that was for a particular event, and often this was fermented. So wassail and cider are a great example of things that are very easy to see that at one time they could have been a potion for something. They just lacked the finesse and time and energies to organize it, because it's kind of like life doesn't happen by having a heap of chemicals. Life happens by some dynamic structure that moves them in a purposeful manner. I'm not going to say that scientists are wrong about being skeptical about creationism, but I am saying that there's a lot more to it and complexity that just having a bunch of bombarded chemicals in a soup on a planet surface just doesn't happen. Same way, a potion doesn't happen because you put a bunch of stuff into a pot. Grandma didn't make a feel-good potion out of her special soup when you were feeling bad on purpose, but she was thinking about making you feel better and was putting stuff together very purposefully. So conversely, you can unintentionally do magic, but you have intention that you're putting into your work. So think about that when you're making food, that you may be imprinting your food with something you don't want. So if you're really pissed off and making the food for your supper just to shove it down your stomach, likely what's happening is you're just putting a lot of frustration into your stomach. So that's a little something to think about. In the cooking and preparation process, I want to talk more about this. But I want to talk about it with you and not a YouTube video on it. If you want me to start doing it, start asking me to, and who knows, I just might. So I think the next time I'm going to be a bit more purposeful, and I'm just going to talk about the subject and make a video and see if you all like that way better. I mean, to see if you all prefer that format. In any case, namaste, be safe, may your intuition guide you.